Formula One is as mad as the asylum in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, guys, there's sometimes here where I'm even glad I'm out of motor racing because it's a madhouse. It is a mad house. There is corruption. There is the bitching, the moaning, just the pure weird relationships that go on in the paddock. It's kind of bone chilling here a bit, you know. In one way, I'm delighted to be out of it because I don't want to be around these mental cases. And then obviously I miss it to a degree. So I have always a bit of both here. But this episode really does highlight how mental it is sometimes to be in motor racing or even competing in other sports. And this episode today, guys, the backstory here is we're looking at two teams. We're looking at number one, Renault, and Daniel Ricciardo's obviously driving for them. It's his first year in the team. But already, even before the season's started, Ricciardo has announced that he's leaving the team. So, of course, this, can you imagine, sends a real ripple wave into the whole team and causes complete unbalance in the force. And then you've got Racing Point here, who've come up with a great competitive car. And yet everybody's complaining, bitching and moaning. And they haven't even won a race yet. They haven't even won a race. Think about this, guys. They haven't won a race and everybody's bitching, moaning, complaining and protesting them to the FIA. Can you imagine that? Imagine if you were at work and somebody is thinking you're going to steal something out of the till here, a bit of cash, right? You haven't done anything. But because you're close by the till and you're operating the till, oh, that's it. Yeah, he's stolen. That's it. Tell him he's out. He's got to be fired. You're like, what? Wait until we get into the nuts and bolts here, guys. It's insane. All right, guys, as much as this is a great program to watch, and I really do recommend it to everybody. I've said this before, we're going to get into all the detail now, right? But I want to sort of just turn around the structure of this. Now, I've said this many a times when I review Drive to Survive, that they don't have any structure, so to speak. In other words, they don't record the program with a real definitive beginning, a climax, and then the end. Do you know, they go from one team and then they all of a sudden, before you know it, you switch over to another team and you're like, hang on, whoa, what? What's going on? It's very strange, guys. Very strange. So, but anyway, we're going to actually change it around on my review here. We're going to talk about the Ricciardo and Renault team first. Then we're going to get into the Racing Point. But so at the start here we see, guys, we see Ricciardo, right? He's announced that he's leaving the team. Now Cyril, the team boss, obviously he's very upset. Now, guys, unfortunately I can't use any video from Netflix, right? Sometimes you can take some footage from YouTube and use it in your videos, but Netflix have this whatever feature they have that if you try and record something, it doesn't let you record. So it's mad. Maybe there's a way around it. I'm still figuring it out, but anyway, maybe it's a good thing that I'm not showing you you gotta go see this program on your own anyway. And I'm going to try and give you the behind the scenes. So, yeah, Ricciardo, was it a good move? Is this a good move that he's going to leave Renault? I mean, we haven't even got into the season yet. But here's the thing. It's very like relationships here, guys. I mean, isn't it better? Like for Ricciardo here, he's decided to leave the team. He's going to McLaren next year. Cyril, the team boss, he's clearly pissed off with this. Daniel Ricciardo, you can tell by him, he's thinking, well, look, obviously I need to make the best move for myself. Is it the best move? He won't know until the next year. But he still wants to succeed this year. But the problem is, you've got Cyril here, the team boss, and this happens quite a lot in motor racing, guys, right? Where Cyril, or the team boss, they'll put all their belief, all their strengths, all their resources into one driver. And that's what Cyril's trying to do with Daniel Ricciardo. Now, Cyril even mentions in the program here that he's gone after 1 year. I mean, it's so short. And he's very correct here in what he's saying, because sometimes it does take a few years to turn your team around. You've got to have the trust in the driver that he's going to be staying here. And if that shakes, well then it's kind of like Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari now, right? he's not going to get the resources that he should be getting. And Cyril will want to, if he does struggle for this year, he's not going to want to be putting all his effort and resources into Ricciardo if he's going to McLaren for next year. It's pointless. Completely pointless. So the guy's just trying to catch up with himself here. And, I mean, again, it just shows you that it's like, it's so mad, really. I mean, Ricciardo's saying that at the start of the year. It's kind of like telling your husband or wife, honey, I'm moving out there at the end of the year, okay? Just to let you know. But now, look, I'm staying here for a while. We're going to sleep in the same bed. We're going to have sex. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to go for dinner, etc. Go on holiday. But I'm moving on with another woman. I just want you to know that, okay? I mean, if you think about it, guys, right? And I know what that feeling's like, where your team will turn against you, or someone in the team turns against you, but not necessarily all of them. You know, you need some trust. So Ricciardo is still, he's hanging around for the rest of the year. What the hell do you do with that? And then we switch over to, as you can see, Christian Horner, of clearly delighted. As you've seen Netflix, guys, I'm sure you have. If you have, you've seen the way Cyril stole Christian Horner from... stole Daniel Ricciardo from Christian Horner into his team. And of course, Horner was very unhappy with that. And if you haven't seen it, guys, you need to go back to season 1 and see that one. It's brilliant. I think it's the 3rd or 4th episode in season 1. But now have the roles shifted. The birds have flown south. And you see then Helmut Marko and Christian Horner sitting outside the paddock, hearing the news of Ricciardo. And this happens a lot, by the way. And then he calls Ricciardo over. He wants to have a good chat. And he's like, oh, and you can see Christian. So, Cyril's not very happy then, huh? And you can see Ricciardo. He's a bit awkward about it. And of course, Christian has a big fucking smile on his face. He's delighted. He couldn't be happier. I mean, all his Christmases have come back to one for Christian Horner. It's unreal. It's ridiculous. And again, guys, it just shows you this bit of madness. And we're going to get into more madness here because we're only just getting into it here. And you can understand from Ricciardo's point of view, you know, can we all learn from that? That sometimes you just think that you're not feeling this. But then again, this is, I think, in many ways where a lot of us can learn from this, whatever walk of life you are in, that we need to feel it in our gut, our hearts, our heads, maybe a combination of all three. Did Ricciardo feel it? Was he seduced by the dark side to go to McLaren and convinced because he was feeling vulnerable? I mean, at the end of the day, he is walking away from a team that are putting everything into him. You know? I mean, what do? Do you go off with some floozy girl or guy, right, who's going to treat you like crap? Or do you stay with the girl or guy who's maybe not as hot and, you know, sexy, but they'll put everything into you? Which one would you go for? Anyway, let's get into Racing Point side of the story here. Now, definitely, guys, when we look at the Racing Point side of things, I definitely think there's a lot that everybody can learn out of this in life, right? And because, you know, if you really look at the information here. So let me just give you the backdrop here, right? As if you haven't seen this episode, this isn't ruining anything, okay? Well, I hope not anyway. I don't think it is. But Racing Point, they've been the 4th fastest team. That's what they call themselves. And they have copied a lot of Mercedes Formula One teams' design. Now, this happens a lot in racing, guys, whether it's karting or Formula Ford or Formula 3, 2, 1, all the way up. This happens in business every day, right? Somebody brings out this new online feature that you can book with one click, and all of a sudden everybody has the thing, right? So, like, if you're going to be pointing the stick of, oh yeah, you know, the copycats, well, how many people do it out in this world? And by the way, I'm not saying that they should have. I'm just saying that, you know, maybe let's not judge them all too well, because if they're doing it, every other team do it, guys. Whether it's a side pod or a front wing design or a back wing design. And I'm telling you, all of them do it. All of them. It's just a matter of time when they try something that maybe works on their car or it doesn't. So anyway, Mercedes have copied just a couple of things really. And it's the braking ducts, right, which is the main area here. Now, here's the wonderful thing. This is what I love. This is like, we're going to go back to the husband and wife madness here, lunacy. And they're showing some pace. And they haven't even won a race now, okay? Now, let me just highlight that again. They have not won a race in this season. And yet, you've got... Who do we have? Let me just look at my notes again, guys. We've got Renault, McLaren, and Ferrari all protesting their car design. And yet they all do it, and they haven't even won a race yet. Now, we're going to get back to the real learning lesson here in just a minute. But this is, this is so bad. This is like you've got a husband and wife at home and you think they're going to go out and cheat, and yet you're calling them cheaters already. They haven't even done anything, right? There's maybe a chance, but you're calling them cheaters already, and they haven't even left the goddamn house, and they're freaking the hell out. But yet, if they were out in a nightclub or bar, they'd be doing the same thing. Because I'm telling you guys, it's like that with the teams, like I just said. They all have copied designs every now and then, and yet they're now protesting Racing Point because they copied a design that they have probably done 1 trillion times in their lifetime anyway. I mean, it's the hypocrisy. It's unbelievable. And that, and my heart does actually go out to them here. And here's the climax now. Here where it's all just pathetic. The madness of Formula 1. The teams complain. They get a penalty. And the Racing Point team get a penalty of 15 points deducted from the Constructors' World Championships. Now, I think they didn't give us all the detail, but I think it's pretty much, look, whatever you have already... Okay, if they've got 15 points already this year, well then they're back to 0. Or even if they haven't not scored anything yet, if they do get up to 15 points, well then they'd be deducted anyway. So it's just a matter really of whether they have the points or not. It doesn't matter. Either way, that 15-point penalty would be there in place for the whole entire year. All right, that's how the rule would go there. So this is the madness part. They get the 15-point penalty, and yet they can keep the design of the car. Do you know how nuts that is? And I'm talking, this is Jack Nicholson walking into the cuckoo's nest here, man, straight into the mental asylum. That does not make any sense in the world why you would do that. So they penalize the team for having a design, but yet they can keep the design. What? And that was it, guys. That was it. They can literally keep the design. Now, the only reason why you penalize someone is if they've done something wrong. Okay? And guys, you don't get to keep your design of the car afterwards. You've got to change the design of the car. That's the whole point, because it's technically, if it was illegal, well then, sorry lads, no. You're getting a 15-point penalty, and you got to change that wing design now. How obscene is that? How obscene is that? Your husband goes out, cheats on you, and yet you penalise him by putting him into the different bedroom. Honey, you're not sleeping in the same bed as him anymore, but you can keep doing what you're doing. It's no worries. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Maybe that's a bad comparison, but do you get... I'm even trying to find the words to explain this. It makes zero sense. And then, of course, you see Lance Stroll's father, who's obviously a heavily invested in the team. And this guy doesn't mess around, guys. He's got the resources behind him. He takes it very seriously, very professionally. I do admire this guy, and he's, they say he's a billionaire, and pretty much he paid his way into Formula One, so he's obviously got money behind him. And he comes on TV, outraged, disgusted, even though in many ways, the way the other teams were protesting, it looked like they were going to have to change their design. In many ways, it should have never happened, okay? Never have happened. But the fact that the FIA did take it seriously, I mean, you're sitting there going, oh, God, what's going to happen to these guys? This is not good, man. This is not good. Something's going to happen here. Guys, we're going to have to change our design. Whip out the drawing board here, lads. We're going to have to start sketching up some designs fast. But then they keep their design. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And then where it all comes around again, we have Renault. We flash over to Renault now. And now we're showing them at Silverstone. They have a 4th place finish. And they're all grand and happy now. I mean, is this acceptable before we close this off today, guys? You know what I mean? I'm sure we can all relate to this. Like, if you really think about it, and if you relate your life to these type of scenarios, there's a lot of similarities here, guys. The hypocrisy, the bitching, the moaning, the corruption, the backstabbing. Should Racing Point have ever been penalised? Absolutely not. I don't think so. Should Ricciardo have left the team even though he was their number one golden boy? And the reason why he did leave the team is the reason why he came to the team is because he was not number one at Red Bull, because Verstappen was number one. So where was the sense in that? Because he could still go to McLaren and be the number 2 guy. And then he's back to square one. In fact, even worse, he's now in a slower car for the next year because Red Bull and Mercedes were obviously the top 2 teams, and obviously throw in Ferrari too. I don't see much sense in all that. Do you? I'll leave it with you guys. Thanks for watching.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter Walsh.